Welcome back to the Make It Count podcast, and we hope you had a wonderful holiday. Excited to return with somebody I consider a good friend and certainly has done the things and is very much who she was the entire time. So today's conversation matters because it sits at the intersection of how we think, how we decide, and how we build. Birdie Nicksic is the founder of IE, Immerse, Emerge, and Forma Company. She's a Charleston-based real estate investor and design visionary who spent over a decade shaping multi-million-dollar residential and commercial projects. What makes Birdie different isn't just her eye, it's how she thinks. Her work lives at the intersection of immersive design, psychology, and technology. She designs environments that help people decide and not just admire. And if you know anything about investing, leadership, or building at scale, you already know how rare that is. So, Birdie, I am so glad you are here and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, because not everybody will know who you are yet, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Birdie?
So I was an actress for 30 years. Moved to Charleston, South Carolina 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I have 3 kids. My kids were born and raised in Southern California. And we just decided we'd had enough of SoCal. We love it for lots of reasons. Didn't like it for lots of reasons, but we were just ready to sort of open a door to a different location and a different experience for our kids. And so we basically picked Charleston. And then the whole world shut down. Literally the week we decided to come out here, COVID happened. Wow. And so we ended up buying our house online, which was a really fun adventure. And my kids nor my husband had ever been to Charleston. So that was kind of fun. I had been here and loved it. And I thought it was very brave of all of them to just jump into the Charleston wagon. And we arrived and haven't looked back. We're super happy to be here. Then my husband and I were trying to figure out, like, where do we go from here? What do we want to build? You know, what does life look like? 2.0. Yeah. What do we do? So then we found our amazing community of Sub 2 and Gator and joined Owners Club and really have just immersed ourselves into all things creative real estate.
Yeah.
And we were doing a little bit of real estate before, meaning we were doing the occasional fix and flip for ourselves, but it was a side gig. It was more like it was in a lot of markets, you can buy a house and live in it and flip it. And you're going to make a lot of money in 2 or 3 years. Like SoCal is like that. So we really did that. And I had a design company back in California. So that's power. So I was always very confident in that. Mm-hmm. And so that was the extent of our real estate investing, really. And David's family has lots of doors, multifamily doors. So we get into conversations about that, but not getting into them ourselves, right? So now we're in this creative world, and we have just met our closest friends. Our minds we feel like we're in our 20s again, right? Like absorbing all of this information and having a spectacular time learning. So that's who I am in a nutshell. Just a creative, growing person in like this second chapter of my life and having a great time.
Well, if you didn't know better, I would have thought you were always in Charleston. I mean, when you think about Charleston, South Carolina, and you think about the ladies, right? The elegant, it's the South. And there's just a certain level of charm and presence. Yes. So it fits you. I'm a little curious, what had you choose Charleston? I know you said you'd been there before.
Yeah. So I had come to visit actually with girlfriends. When I used to live in North Carolina. I moved a lot when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I lived in North Carolina for a long time, and I would come down and visit Charleston with my girlfriends, but that was a very different type of visiting Charleston, right? You're going to shop in restaurants and bars and whatever. So I only saw like this much of Charleston, and it had been 30 years since I had been here. But I love it here. It was never really on my radar of places to live, to be honest. My husband we kind of used to play this game in California. We lived there for 22 years.
Yeah.
In California. So we used to play this game of like, if we left here, where would we go? And I think a lot of people play that game, right? You kind of get used to where you live and you're like, what would it be like to live here? So we just landed. My husband was really pushing for Denver.
Okay.
And if you know me, you know that I don't do cold weather, and I don't ski. It's not a thing that I do. Snow ski.
Yeah.
So I was always looking at him sort of cross-eyed, like, have you met me? I'm married to you. Do you know who I am? I don't do cold weather. Like, and even though Colorado, maybe Denver's not so like when you think of cold places, but anyway, he kept trying to push for Denver. And then one day he came home and he's like, what about Charleston? And I looked at him, I was like, have you been there? And he said, no. And I was like, well, I have been there, and I would absolutely consider Charleston. So we kind of started diving in, and then we scheduled a trip to come out to visit, to look for houses. And then COVID happened. So he never got to come out.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that funny? But we chose it anyway.
Well, this is why you're my people. Because you know what rhymes with snow? No. No.
I'm like,
no to snow.
Right.
If you've ever, for me, I get nosebleeds even with that elevation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that's the way of, my body saying, not only do you not like it, you shouldn't be here.
We're gonna bleed.
Yeah, we're gonna show you. We don't do elevation.
I love it. Yeah, the elevation does bother me a little bit. Not horribly, but like it does. It just, I don't, you know what it is too? I said this the other day to somebody. As a kid growing up, we moved a lot. Like I said, I don't think I was ever dressed appropriately.
Oh, okay.
I'm serious. I don't think that I had the appropriate clothing, and therefore I was constantly miserable in the cold. And so I just developed that sort of attitude about snow. I actually think I'd probably enjoy it more now because I know how to dress. But I still don't find joy in skiing or sledding.
Right.
The big funny story is one of my friends growing up said, oh, we used to try to get you to go sledding all the time, and you always wanted to stay inside with my parents. That is a pretty serious sign that you are not meant for, when you're choosing someone's parents over your friends.
Right. Oh, that's great.
It was a big indication. So,
well, and the other big market that you tend to invest in for your own portfolio, if you will, is Savannah, Georgia. I mean, these two cities don't touch. I mean, I have my assumption, but what has you investing in Savannah, Georgia as well?
So that is really, it's very similar to Charleston. It's basically people call them sister cities.
Yeah.
They're very similar historical basis of, like the time and the types of things that happen. So it's 2 hours. It's 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, it's only 2 hours door to door.
Okay.
And my daughter goes to school there. So she's in SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design. So she goes to school there. And that was the first time I had been to Savannah, was taking her to a summer camp when she was still in high school to go for sort of a precursor to going to school there to see if she would like it, to see, that was her thing. And I fell in love with it. That was the first time I was there, and I did not want to leave. And I was like, oh, this is special. Yeah. So I just realized, if you understand Charleston a little bit, you probably understand Savannah. It's similar, very similar. So we just like knowing where we invest. We like understanding the market. I think that's so important. And I know that there are plenty of people that invest outside of their backyard. I just think when the market gets sticky, for whatever reason, you had better know what to do.
Right. Yeah, and have the resources to weather that storm for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I've not been to Charleston, but I lived in Savannah in the '90s.
Oh, you did?
I did, and that's where my son was born, and I took my husband for our anniversary last year. It was his first time in Savannah.
What did he think?
Oh my gosh, he loved it. We stayed at the JW because they took that river district on the north side. I
Yeah.
think that's the north side of the water. But anyway, and just they revitalized it. It was great.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So Pace's Creative Nation Tour, Adam Catledge hosted it
Mhm.
in Savannah, and they had that meetup at the JW.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
because just the crystals, right? My background with gems, they've got these
Oh,
huge
that's
amethyst and quartz
right.
crystals the size of people,
Yes.
which is just incredible that they've mined it and have it there. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of a cool
It's a
place.
really cool hotel, actually.
Yeah.
It's pretty. Yeah.
Well, which
So,
don't let me forget, I did actually see there's some riverfront land in Savannah for sale.
oh,
Oh, I'll tell you about it. I'll
yeah,
tell you
we can
about it later when we're not
talk
live.
later.
Because when
Yes.
I saw it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I could so see Birdie putting something right there."
Yes. Yeah, you definitely show it to me. Yeah, Savannah's interesting too because the market, like, is a city, and you probably know this. SCAD really revitalized that city
Sure.
in after it got hit with the really bad hurricane, I think in the late 80s, and it was it was really not robust.
Right.
And SCAD came in and they just I forget her name actually. Why is it escaping me? Do you know who the woman,
Yeah.
Paula? Anyway, her first name's Paula. She started SCAD and she's still there. And
Wow. Okay.
she's in Savannah, and I don't know if she's the president of SCAD still, or I don't know, but she really changed that city.
Yeah. Well, and it's if people listening have never been now, I've not been to Charleston. It is one I plan to go to,
Oh,
but if they've not been to either of them, they're just kind of magical, right? You step into almost a time capsule, if you will,
yeah.
depending on what area you go to.
Yeah,
But
they're very European. I always say it's a very sort of chic European
Mhm.
Southern town. There's a lot of history here from, obviously British and French,
Right.
and also Barbados culture. And so we just have that influx, and it's like, have you been to New Orleans?
Of course. Yeah, I got married in New Orleans.
Oh, you did? So
Mhm.
I always say New Orleans is that sort of to that Cajun islandy flavor. It's like Charleston and Savannah both have a European flavor, but
Sure.
it's less grungy. Charleston's not grungy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's whereas Savannah might have a little bit more. I always say Charleston's the older, well-dressed, put together sister.
Yeah.
Savannah is the younger sister who likes to have a lot of fun and might have a little edge to her. That's my comparison.
That's fair. Well, I really want to talk a little bit about your business because it is also so unique.
Yeah.
I like to prepare too, Birdie. So forgive me. I do give myself a lot of questions
I love
because, all right, I think you're spending your time to pour into the people who are listening and watching. I have a responsibility to make sure I know exactly what you've been up to, and it's been a lot. So now you've spent a lot of time reading people and
Yes.
environments. I mean, we've talked about that before offline, just kind of how you see things through your lenses. So when you walk into a space, what do you notice first that most people miss?
I think most of the time, and I never go into any space with any expectations.
Mhm.
I really try to just, I actually walk through properties pretty slowly because I just want to, it's like a living organism to me. So when I
Right.
walk up to a house, I just sort of stand and stare at it for a second. And then when I walk in, I don't really like to talk, to be honest. I do talk to people, but I really like to just walk through it and have my thoughts and feelings about it.
Mhm.
I typically notice the flow first. So if there's something visually unattractive, I already know that can be changed. But if there's something super disjointed about the way a property moves, the way the house or the whatever business is set up, I'm going to feel that first.
Mm.
And I don't think that's, I think usually people are taken by, what does the front door look like? What finishes are, did they use wallpaper? Like they're looking at the materials. And I get it. That's can be, if it's something hideous that can really bother you, I get that. But I really notice, does this make me want to walk in further? Does this feel right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how I think this is true for people who spend a lot of time in the kitchen. You can walk into a kitchen, maybe you're staying at an Airbnb or you're at a friend's house, and you can kind of know where things should be
Right.
in a kitchen. It's the same thing for me, but on a larger scale. So whether it's like I said, a business office or just a house or a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
it really bothers me a lot if something doesn't flow correctly. So that's the thing I notice first, I think, before anything.
I think most people see with their eyes, and based on what you're describing, you see with your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which is why the quiet would probably be really important, because you need
Yeah.
that opportunity to have that unspoken word
Mm-hmm.
for that space. That's definitely a gift, Birdie. That's not something you're the first person I've encountered that really has that gift. Now,
Oh, really?
really. Now, that's the other thing with superpowers. Here's the funniest thing when I coach people, and I said, the hardest thing for people to know is our own superpower. And the reason why is because it comes such second nature to us. We assume everybody has it.
Yeah. I know that that's a superpower. I actually really do know that because I've solved a lot of problems for people since I was a kid, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, I told you I moved a lot.
Right.
I think that superpower, that muscle was born out of adaptability and a necessary skill for me to feel comfortable all the time in my spaces.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful for that. But I do know that that's my superpower. But I think what's even more important for what you just said, I just want to add this, is that I think that what happens with people is even when you recognize that, oh, this is unique to people, like I have something unique. I think what happens is we actually don't value it enough.
Oh,
I think that's the thing, because when something comes really easy for someone, you tend to give it away all the time. Mm-hmm. Like I used to give away, I used to do things for people all the time for free, design stuff. And I got to the point where it was starting to suck time out of my life. And I thought to myself, wait a second, wait. Like people get paid for this. And why am I doing this for free? And also people are asking me for advice and then they're not taking the advice. And then I go over there 6 months later and I walking into the same exact place and they're complaining about the same exact things. And then I realized, but if they had paid me, I bet they would value my advice more.
Yes.
Because I actually paid their hard-earned money to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so that was a big pivot for me in like 2010. That's when I started my design business in Southern California, because I was doing it for free and I just put an end to that. So I think I agree with you that I think a lot of people don't recognize it, but then when they do recognize it, I don't know that people feel like they can all of a sudden use that superpower to make money.
Sure. No, that's a great call. And there's givers and takers, right?
Yeah.
Typically the ones who want it for free typically are takers.
Right.
And nothing's worse than giving it for free, because maybe it's a friend or somebody that right, you have some sort of relationship with. and then to not have them even lean into the expertise when they got it for free.
Right.
It
Yeah.
takes me back to that book of Be Unoffendable, because it could be
Oh,
offensive.
I wish I had it down here. Do you know that I have a piece of art in my house? We have a bomb shelter in our house, and this is our office.
Okay.
I have a piece of art upstairs right above us that says, "Stand unoffended."
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book about it and I was like, wow. So when I get offended, that's ego. Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do think that when you give it away, like in the beginning, right? When you discover something that might be monetizable about yourself, you want to try it on with your friends and your family, right? Like you're sort of like, oh, let me do this. I would give away free advice. And once I started realizing like, this is really good advice, I kind of enjoyed it if they would implement it, because it was like, I was like ringing the bell every time, like, see, it worked. See, look how good this looks. And I would just sort of ring the bell. Right. But then I just started, once I started feeling like it was, people were calling me specifically for that task, then I knew that I needed to charge money for my time.
Yeah. Well, and it's God makes that stuff really obvious too, right? When we are doing the things we're supposed to be doing, it comes our way. We don't have to force it.
Right.
So it was already coming your way. So tell me a little bit about, you don't just, again, I'm using my questions and this is live on purpose.
I love it. No, it's okay.
Could you hear my dogs?
I can't. Yeah, that's okay.
I was going to lock them out. And then they're at the door whining because they're so spoiled. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll open the door, but you can't bark.
Oh, no.
There you go. There it is. Okay. So you don't just design spaces, of course, you design conviction. Where do you see hesitation show up most often in projects? And what does that usually come as a cost to the project?
So the biggest thing that I've noticed over the years is that, first of all, people live differently. And I will talk about sort of the consumer, and then I'll talk about investors.
Okay.
The problems are similar. So people live differently. And you have to understand their personality a little bit before you start diving into a project. And what happens a lot is that there are a million different ways you can skin the cat. There's a million different beautiful ways to tell a story of a house, or set up an office, or convert a beautiful historic home into a bed and breakfast. There's so many different ways to do it. And what I found is that people get paralyzed with making decisions.
It's true.
And what ends up happening is, excuse me, I'm going to have a little frog. Sorry about that.
You're good.
So what ends up happening is they get stuck on the feelings of what they're seeing. And they don't know that that's what they're stuck on. I know that that's what they're stuck on. And it's really hard to push them past that, because most people make decisions based on how something makes them feel. So I have seen with investors, so that's sort of the consumer side, right? So what happens with investors, which is really interesting to now have seen both sides of this, is that investors operate from doing the underwriting, understanding, what they want to do with the property. Maybe it's just a fix and flip. Maybe it's a buy and hold. Maybe it's a conversion, hotel conversion.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. But they do the underwrite, the initial stuff, and then they go at it from a spreadsheet. And there's not a lot of emotion in a spreadsheet.
True.
So they're going by numbers, right? And if they don't understand the nuance of design, and some do, some do. So I'm not saying this is for everyone, but a lot of people don't. And what they do is they spend a lot of time looking on Pinterest or, in magazines and things like that. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they don't even do that. But they just go to Home Depot or Floor and Decor or Lowe's and they look at what's the least expensive thing. And I see this in houses. Like I go to I go through, walkthroughs, or I saw this in a hotel down the street. So I'm going to do this. So they copy, which is fine that you can copy, and actresses copy all the time. I was taught as an actress, steal good ideas. I agree with that. Yeah. Steal good ideas. Yeah, absolutely. But what happens is when they go by the spreadsheet and they're going by the numbers, they are missing the nuance of the emotion of the end user. And you have to understand trends and who's walking in to use what you're building. Mm-hmm. And you want the most eyeballs to enjoy it, right?
Right.
So you can be broad, but if you're too broad, you lose people because it feels unfinished. It feels uninspiring.
Feels like a fix and flip.
Yeah. And it doesn't inspire, a second visit. It doesn't inspire an offer. And it is a really interesting dance. And you just have to, I always say this to people, like, you can do it. You can do it. And it will probably work. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, it probably will work faster and better if you use someone like me.
Yeah.
Or hire a designer. Most of the time, they don't want to carve out a line item expense for a designer. They just don't. They think, however much money is a lot of money. But when you break it down, like, okay, well, here's how much money. If you don't do it right, here's how much money you'll pay if you have to redo XYZ, or if it sits on the market for this much longer. And it really boils down to the fact that they should have just done it right, like hired a designer the first time, and take that stress off of yourself.
Right.
Right. So people will build a house for themselves, and they think because they have a really great Pinterest board or their friend is a designer, they're just going to pick their brain for free.
Yeah.
I've seen it fall short so much. I guess that's my point. I've seen years and years of people just ignoring that part because they're like, it's good enough. It's good enough. Or I'm going to pick her brain about the bathroom or the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And then they do the rest of the house and none of it works. Right?
Right.
People try to put either too much of things that they like that don't tell the same story. Like, I like all the beautiful things. I'm going to throw it in one property. And you're like, you walk in and you feel like you're walking into Pee-wee's Playhouse, right? Or they do nothing because they're too scared to make any choices that are unique because they don't hire someone. And it bums me out. But it's really it's decision paralysis, and for decision paralysis for the consumer and dollar sign spreadsheet paralysis for the investor.
Yeah. Penny wise and pound foolish for the investor.
Right.
One of my favorite mantras, just excellence is achievable, right? But not by cutting corners. I had this thing in my office forever. Yeah. Countless unseen details make the difference between mediocre and magnificent.
So true.
And when people are faced with decisions, a lot of decisions, like when you're talking about that decision paralysis, sometimes it's a reverse engineer, right? It's like, okay, well, don't worry about that decision. When it's all said and done, what shows up?
Right.
Even with the investors, right? When it's all said and done, what shows up? Well, for the investor, we know what that is. It's going to be a certain dollar amount they're probably looking for.
Right.
For the homeowner, it's interesting because you're right. Most of us operate through feelings, right? That's the emotional piece. Some people, though, are more through tactile.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And others visual.
Right.
Uh, so when it's what shows up, what happens is they answer from where their comfort zone is. If they're
Exactly.
like, well, things feel lush, or they're, eh, you know, for the investor, it's probably just money at the end of the day.
Exactly. This is my point. Right.
Yeah.
So invest in a buyer, an end user is going, even if they're not aware. And let me tell you, a lot of them are not
Mhm.
aware that when they walk into a space, they are moved by their senses. They are all their senses are giving them a green light,
Mhm.
or there's one glaring red light going off and they don't even know why. They just don't really love the property. They don't love the hotel. They don't love the business. They don't want to go back to that restaurant.
Mhm.
Why? They may just pick something, but that actually may not even be the main reason.
Right.
It's our behaviors come from our senses informing us a certain way, and you're just going to win all day if you pay attention to those little nuanced things. And I think investors miss that
Mhm.
by copying other people and just missing the emotional infusion whatsoever, the sensory infusion that they could do with
Right.
so many little things. So yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It's all
The
about that.
Well, I mean, even the television shows, right? That where they're doing sort of remodels or what have you.
Mhm.
The person who's doing the remodeling isn't the person who does the designing,
Right.
right? It's a different person that comes in. And so if the professionals are the ones that are seen, on television or streaming to be the
Mhm.
experts take that
Mhm.
approach, there's something to learn from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't a lot of times too, like, you can have great taste as a fix and flipper. You can be like, "Yeah, this is worked really well for us for the last few years." But there's always a time and a place for things to work, and then
Mhm.
the market shifts. Just like there was a time and place to invest in multifamily, then the market shifted.
Yeah.
Airbnb, the market shifted. Like all of the things. And it's the same thing goes with design. Black and white, I've said this in last year a lot, and it's probably people who are watching who's heard me say this. I'm sorry. It's just true. Black and white works, but it
Mhm.
is not in right now. Don't go do a house in black and white right now. Don't do it. If you're trying to sell it, you've got to warm it up. It's slightly creamier whites. It's more earth tones. It's even jewel tones if your market will allow that. There are certain
Mhm.
places where jewel tones will go well. New
Mhm.
Orleans being one of them.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, New York, even Charleston. Like there's places that the buyers they lean into that more. But you have to know what those things are that are coming before it's everywhere. Because then when it's everywhere, your place is just going to look like everything else.
And you're
And
behind the curve because it's about to change. If it's everywhere, it's about to change.
right. And and certain markets obviously were going to get there first. So like you have the big cities, they're going to get to those new trends first. And it was interesting. I was in Houston last year for a couple of projects, and they were doing the black and white thing. And I get
Mhm.
it, like the iron ore and the alabaster from Sherwin-Williams. Like it's, garanimals at this point. So I was thinking to myself, wow, this is fascinating. This is last year, so
Mhm.
2024. Or well, now it's 2025, but this was 2024. I was thinking to myself, wow, when I moved to Charleston from Los Angeles in 2020, black and white was already leaving.
Mm.
So they're just still doing it in Houston. Now, Houston's a big city, but that's the importance of understanding your market. Right? I
Right.
wouldn't go to Los Angeles right now and do black and white. No way. You may as well build the house in the 1990s because everything will be ripped out. It's just, and I like a crisp museum wall. I am a
Mhm.
fan. But as far as for homes, You just have to know your audience. You have to know your audience and you have to know the market. That's why I don't do anything on Zooms. I have to go to the asset because there's just too much to miss if you're not there.
Well, and that kind of takes me to your business, right? Immerse, emerge. Tell us about that. One, how did you land at that? It's because immerse is just it. You have to be there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Immerse Emerge actually came to me about 5:30 in the morning at the gym when I was on the floor doing sit-ups. This is a true story. And I sat up like it was just this lightning bolt idea. And I thought to myself, this has to already exist, because why would this be coming to me now and not 500 other people? So I kind of went home, and for the next couple of months, I didn't even talk about it with anyone, not even my husband. I just deep dove into poking holes in the idea, and also then trying to disqualify myself from being the one that needed to build it, because I was like, oh, this just left field. Like cannot do this too. But what ended up happening was, through that process and like different iterations of like building the business plan, I realized ultimately everything I had experienced in my design business and everything I would talk to other people about, whether it was investors or consumers, all kind of landed in the same pot of ingredients, which is that what we were just talking about. People are moved to action based on their feelings, even when they are subconscious. Well, we all are subconsciously reacting to things. Lighting and sound and smells and touch and taste. They create emotions, and our emotions drive our behavior. So my idea was, how can I create a brick and mortar space where it's a business to business model?
Yeah.
Where architects, designers, engineers, developers could upload all of their data into this system and bring their clients to this place, and they can go into a bay, a studio, and in real time change the boutique hotel. You're going into the lobby, and you would have done on your intake form, the architect would have sent everything in, or the designer, whatever. You would have put in there what the city, what the zip code is, what time of year you want to see it, what is the signature scent, all of these things. So we work with sensitive lighting, sound, and scent technology to create a fully immersive experience. Not just a floor plan. There's iterations of this that already exist. So I don't want people to think that I just caught
you're making it 360 though.
So I'm making it so that when you look up and down, you are in this room. And if they say, you know what, I see this hotel and I like the lighting, okay, but let's change the lights. And then they would already have done the work on the rendering. So you're basically showing your client say 3 or 4 different renderings that you've already discussed. But we have been presenting designs and development drawings to people for, I don't even know, measurable years. I don't know, but like CAD, Revit, SketchUp, you show people drawings and they're looking at these precise drawings in front of them. And then you're showing these, now we've got insane renderings, right? Like they look totally real. You can still kind of tell, but everybody uses renderings. We all use AI, or we should be. So you're looking at something and you can get a sense of it. But I am telling you the difference between seeing something on a screen or on a piece of paper and then stepping inside of the space and looking around. Not with furniture. This is just finishes. It's like the lighting, the sound, the smell. the cabinet colors, the art on the wall, the music.
Wow. Yeah.
You're stepping into a space, and your investors, if you're pitching a hotel, your investors are going to buy in so much faster, exponentially faster. Your clients, they're building a $2 million house. They are going to know like this instantly when you put the right combination of things in that kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to know that's the kitchen I want to walk into every single morning.
Yeah.
It's just a sliver of a nuanced change, but it lights everything up in people. What happens in the business too is this has happened to everybody that's ever developed or designed anything. City planning offices, even, you sit in a room and you're looking at these drawings, right? Or these renderings, and everyone sitting there is like uninspired, maybe, or maybe slightly inspired, but nobody can make a decision because you can't feel it fully, right? Like, these are beautiful. This is beautiful. This is what I think I like. And you've got samples, like you can give them this and they're touching it and they're like, oh, I like the way this feels. But is this going to be weird as a curtain in the hotel room? Like, what is this? How is this going to wear? Like, they want to feel, they're trying so hard to feel it. That's what they're doing.
Right.
They're basically telling you, I can feel it. I can see the drawings, but I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to feel walking in there.
Yeah.
What happens is they either make no decision until they can let it churn. And then they get so sick of not knowing that they just pick something. And then that takes me to the next point. When people decide on something because they're sick of not deciding, what ends up happening is in 2 months, there's giant amounts of change orders because you start putting things in and then they go, oh, no. This is not what I thought it would feel like. I don't like this feeling. This doesn't feel right. It has happened to everybody.
Yeah.
And then you spend more time and they spend more money. And that's never a good feeling.
No, for sure.
I'm just trying to cut into that time lag, like decision lag, and the change order runaway train that happens on so many projects. If I could help solve 1% of the $1.3 trillion industry, if I could solve, and it's not even, they've actually measured it now. They now know, when I say they, I mean, MIT's measured this. Harvard Business Review did a big deep dive into, if you add immersive design into your proposals, how much quicker do people make decisions? And then how much money in the end was saved based on your last, 5 years of projects?
Yeah.
And it's across both categories. It's between 30 and 50% faster and savings of dollars.
Yeah.
So if I'm just saying, if we can add that nuance across the nation, like my idea is IE is a lab. It's a lab. And it's business to business. And so these are, membership. It's a membership business. They can bring their clients in as many times as they want and just keep the deals, keep those projects moving, keep people happy, save everyone money. So that's IE.
Well, so you mentioned scent, which is so interesting because I do a lot of business travel. I know you do as well. And there are certain properties I prefer to appreciate because they are strategically pumping a certain scent in the hotel.
Yeah.
So when it comes to scents, how would you describe the types of scents people might ask for?
Well, obviously hotels all now have a signature scent. Once upon a time, that was just a bougie thing, but now it's actually just everywhere. And it's interesting that immersive choices in design is becoming mainstream. If people are not thinking about it, it's similar to like a business saying, if you're not using AI, you're going to get lost. You're going to get left behind. I say the same thing about sensory immersion in your design. I will die on that hill and say it all day long. If you are not using some form of it, you're just going to lose. You're going to lose more than you win, if that makes sense. Yeah. So scents would be like the signature scent of a hotel and whatever that would be. So you'd use a perfume or a pretty neutral, gender neutral smell that people like. Different scents that you would infuse into like a luxury house would be somewhat similar to that, right? So what's sort of an unoffensive, delicious smell that people like? When you're showing them the renderings for their kitchen, you're probably diffusing garlic bread in there or bacon or cookies, you know? Yeah. We all have gone to open houses where the agent bakes cookies. When you go down the road in certain cities, you know, these old Italian restaurant, like Italian neighborhoods, the people that own the restaurants are opening the door so that the baked bread smell goes out into the, you know, this has been used for a long time. The scent of coffee and baked goods. So all of those things. I mean, if you're showing it's so funny that I'm going to tell you this story, but I wasn't going to tell any Hollywood stories, but I'm going to tell you really.
I got one.
You got one. I have so many. But and I don't know if it's still like this, but I would go into Universal Studios a lot. Not the amusement park or whatever that is, the park, but the actual building, the executive building. So I would go into this, and every time I walked in, I would, all of a sudden, my lungs would just open up like heaven. I was like, I'm in heaven. Breathe it in. There was such a clean, crisp scent of almost like ozone. Have you ever smelled like, it sounds weird to say I can smell the ozone, but it is so distinctly clean, and it's not chemical clean. It's like if heaven came down and there could be like the scent of no scent, of like pure perfection. Universal Executive Offices had it dialed in.
That's great.
And it was the scent of ozone. So fast forward, I don't know what I was doing, but I went into this shop to get a really good water filtration system. And I was in LA and I was in the Valley. And I went in, and the minute I walked in the door, it was like Universal. It was, I was like, my head probably
took you back.
It looked like I was probably a crazy person. And I went up to the salesperson. I said, I need to know what that is. And he's like, what? And I was like, this smell, this. And he's like, I don't smell it. I was like, no, it's a no smell.
Yeah.
It is the thing that Universal Studios has. He's like, oh, that's a filter. I bought 4 filters so that my house would smell like this.
Yeah.
And I still have them. You just have to change the bulbs all the time. They're these like anyway. It moved me that much.
Yeah. And it took you back. I mean, think about how long ago that was.
Instantly knew I could place myself. So anyway, that is my Hollywood story. But, you know, yeah. So this different sense would just be something to entice the end user. So like if you have a big apartment complex and you're going to rent these nicer apartments, and maybe you have like a nice gym and you've got a pool deck or whatever. I mean, you might decide in the gym to diffuse, this is going to sound weird, but the smell of something coconut or something that makes people think of being on the beach in a swimsuit.
Right. Because you're going to motivate you to work out.
100%.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, eucalyptus or peppermint, something therapeutic. Right. So You would do that in an apartment. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that in an apartment building? What you're doing is you're stamping their thoughts with the thing that makes your apartment complex really nice. You've got this great gym.
Yeah.
You've got a gorgeous pool. If you work out and you go to the pool, you're going to look good. And that's what they're stamping into your mind.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that, right? So you want people to want to choose you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just as you think about, well, our brains are constantly processing information, right? It's the default mode network. And we are so overstimulated, right? Whether it's social media, it's streaming, what have you. The things that social media and streaming can't plug into, though, are scent, right? I absolutely can see where when you can push a scent, you take all that overstimulation and you bring people back to, I don't want to say calm, but to a place.
Well, they feel, grounded in.
Yeah. It's almost like putting your feet on the grass, right? When you feel like you've been in a concrete building or anything too much, go and put your feet in the grass, do that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Ice cream companies. I learned this. I've got a friend that has some ice cream shops. And part of the franchise expectation is that you constantly have the smell of waffle cones.
Yeah. I love that smell. My gosh.
Exactly. Waffle cone smell at all times.
Right.
And they
That's
even
awesome.
They have some that you can't go in. They have some that are windows in Southern California. Yeah. So they pump it outside the building.
Of course.
Right. Like
there was a study that I've also said this before. So anyone who's seen me say this, I'm sorry. But this is a really fascinating thing. So Dunkin' Donuts did this in Korea. They had 2 bus lines, Dunkin' Donuts shops on both bus lines, and they wanted to run an experiment. So on one bus line, it was steady Eddie, no changes. But on buses, when they run the ads, like 3-second ads on the screens on the bus, they'll just run little ads. So on the one bus line, they ran, every time there was a Dunkin' Donuts ad, they would diffuse the smell of donuts or coffee
into the bus.
Wow. And that route saw a huge spike in sales. They just did 2 routes, same coffee, similar like locations of coffee shops. Anyway, that's a fascinating thing, but it is. And also I think this is another fascinating thing. The scent of smell is processed in a different part of your brain than every other scent, which I think is so interesting, because when someone asks me, or if somebody's posed the question, what scent do you think is the most memory making scent? In my mind, in my world, I would have said sound, because of music, right? Because you hear a song and it just takes you back into this memory, right?
Yeah.
Visual would not be. Visual, I knew was not it. And I didn't think touch was it either. But I would have said sound, but it's actually scent. Your sense of your
smell.
Thank you. Sense of smell is actually the quickest, most deeply rooted scent of memory that you have.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Interesting.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's a weird thing to be like, oh, I'm a designer and I'm going to have you smell something when you walk. You're going to smell sweaty shoes when you walk into the snow. You want it to be pleasant, but it is the thing that turns people off the fastest, if you think about it.
Imagine, I'm thinking about as far as scale, right? Because what you are building and have launching as B2B, right? Business to business. Mm-hmm. Imagine organizations, right? The corporate structures, companies out there. I mean, the reality is people are groomed from grade school to be employees for the most part.
Right.
We don't, unfortunately, teach people to be entrepreneurs or business owners. But imagine if those corporations, Birdie, could initiate that for in the workspace. Think about it.
Mhm.
There's so much work lethargy, right? People, if
Yeah.
they're working an 8 or 9-hour day, they might actually work 3 hours or something like that. I think I'd read recent, and you're just like, but
Yeah. No, I think it's 2 actually. I think they get 2 hours of productive work actually completed.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I it's a whole world, and it's funny because when I started really working on it, the beginning of 2025, I was like hyper focused, trying to do all the things, built
Mhm.
it, like had conversations with people who are building sort of that do the one version of it now, which is amazing renderings where you can do sort of 4D walkthroughs, right? Like and those are wonderful, like Matterport, but on steroids, right? So
Yeah.
like beautiful sales. You go into these hotels in Dubai and you can stand with an iPad and in just a shell and see the room, and you're like looking out the same window. And they do things like that. But there's still something weirdly missing
Yeah.
because you're still holding something. And even though you're standing in this empty building, like a corporate structured build, like corporate suites or whatever,
Yeah.
um, there's still a lot missing. And so I was building this, what I realized very quickly, and what has caused me to sort of take it all down, to step back and then approach it differently, which was really hard because when you get really excited about something, you're just like, I'm just
Mm.
going to run into the storm and I'm going to bowl everyone over no matter what. But I've really pulled it back because I've talked to a number now, a handful of people who have had a lot of success in the tech startup space. And this is
Mhm.
technically it's tech, it's technology.
Well, it's tech combined with your expertise.
Yeah, it's tech
Yeah.
design, but number one, it's almost like it's a little too early to get a lot of money for it. Because they see the iteration that exists now and they're sort of like, yeah, it's good enough. That's how
Mm.
people think. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
this does the job. This is good enough. I think that's not true. I think that the next iteration of what's happening now, it's like when we went from cordless phones, right, to essentially these giant suitcase phones for cell phones.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it's cordless. You're just walking out of the house with it. It's the same
Yeah.
size. It's like this big.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there was this, and then then there was like the BlackBerry was really the computer, right? The
Mhm.
BlackBerry was the connection to your emails. And that's all anyone used computers for, other than like writing papers,
Right.
maybe. So you had two very separate things. And all of a sudden, in what year did iPhones come out? Motorola had the flip phone, right? But you still wasn't a smartphone. So all of a sudden there was this iteration of the beautiful little computer that we all carry around now in our hands. But
Yeah.
it took a while because people were fine with that. I think that what IE is is the next iteration of how decisions will be and should be made
Mhm.
to save so much time and money. End of
Yeah.
story. People just spend way too much time trying to make B-level decisions. It's a B-level decision. If you don't love this wallpaper, change it in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's a B-level decision. If you don't like this color scheme for your hotel, it's just paint, or it's just like some furniture that you're going to have to replace at some point anyway, and you're going to have to rehab it in 5 years anyway. Like, these are B-level decisions,
Yeah.
and people get so stuck. And of course, you want to hit it out of the park, but anyway, I could just go on and on. But that's so I started down a lane, and felt like I got to a point where the fundraising component was going to be really heavy and very hard to prove, and they wanted like a minimum viable version,
Mm-hmm.
the minimum viable product. And the funny thing is I'm like, but the minimum viable product already kind of exists. That I only want to build the maximum viable product. The minimum is out there right now.
Yeah.
You could burn a candle, I guess, if you walk in. You could just add the scent component that way. I don't know. So I'm working through these little things. I know that there's answers. I'm just working through them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how my businesses have all kind of gone like this. Like I've had all these lanes that I've been doing. And it's slowly starting to go like this. Because David and I are also, we've just jumped into, with great passion and excitement, the RV park space, into developing, a resort, and then also working now with another team. I'm not going to say anymore, but
Sure.
like, it's interesting how I'm seeing down the road how all these things are going to come together. And it's sort of, I'm really excited. 2026 is going to be phenomenal.
Well, and I've seen pictures of things that you've done, and they're incredible. And in the meantime, are you still taking on clients as far as investors and consumers like homesteaders?
Yeah. So I don't actually work with consumers anymore.
Okay.
I stepped away from that. It's too much babysitting of emotions.
Fair.
And so I stepped away from that when I built this investor model. So I am not taking on, I've got a couple projects that I'm still wrapping up. I mean, we're still kind of in the finishing phase. So that's fantastic. I think what I'm really pivoting more towards is working on much bigger projects. So I would take some things like that, but I don't want to take small, like fix and flips. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So these would be, hotels, RV resorts, experiential resorts, I guess, that kind of thing. And so I'm not really, I'm trying to move past just being in a smaller box.
Well, people are going to want to work with you. And that's why I want to make sure that they know what really is the lane. If this is the lane they're in. So if they're doing large scale projects, what comes to mind is, have you ever, and I'm sure you've seen them because I'm about to talk in your wheelhouse here a little bit, the graduate hotels?
No.
Oh my gosh. So they ended up selling to Hilton, but it started off as an independent, and they were buying these dated hotels where there are major universities.
Okay.
And then they themed them based on the university. Vince and I stayed in one in Arkansas on a road trip we were doing. And of course, it was themed for the University of Arkansas. There's a Dolly Parton one in Nashville. There's a Vanderbilt one. But that's the kind of thing I see you doing.
So they're called graduate hotels?
Graduate hotels. And it was independently owned. They ended up, one of the streaming platforms did a series with them.
Oh my gosh.
On their different hotels.
Yeah.
And in the last year or so,
how many did they have? Do you know?
They've sold them to Hilton now. I mean, Hilton now has the graduate hotels.
Right. I wonder how many there were total.
I don't know. There were quite a few.
I'll look it up. No, that's fantastic. I love that. No, I love this. I love this. It's like, pick your lane and go for it. But I will consult bigger 100%. I'm still doing it. It's just a bigger, I am going to say no more this year than I say yes.
Sure.
Because we are building out some of our own things, but I get very excited to create with people. I love collaboration. I really do. I love problem solving. And I love it.
Well, and I know we shared how people could follow you and all that when we announced the live. So they've got that. The other thing with the graduate, and they should pay me for this promotion.
They really should.
Right. We had our dachshund with us, Boo,
Uh-huh.
and he was even allowed to go into the hotel lounge and be in the bar with us
Oh,
on the sofa. It just, I don't
yeah.
know, that and Kimpton hotels, right? Those are the ones that
Yeah.
if I
Well, and
see.
then what are the Moxie hotels? Like Marriott has a couple.
Yeah, they have Moxie, which
Marriott
has
has
that European feel.
Yeah,
The
but I'm saying with the dogs. And that's a big thing
Yeah.
too. It's like the modern traveler is very different now. It's a different group of people. They travel with their dogs.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily want to stay in a hotel. They want to stay maybe in an RV or
Right.
in a yurt or a cabin somewhere or on a farm where they can go out to, the hydroponic buildings and pull their whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's so fascinating to me how different it's becoming. And the bigger institutions they're starting to pay attention, right?
Yeah.
They're buying certain things. I love it. I love when things start to change because you start to see where mankind is filling a need, and it really is fascinating to me because we go balls out on something as humans, right? We're like,
Mhm.
social media, computers, and we go crazy. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, get me grounded. Let me take my shoes off and walk in the
Yeah.
dirt and get my, you know, it's just a funny how we are and how fortunate we are being alive at this point in time where we can unapologetically change our minds
Mhm.
because there is so much to learn and so much we can create. And I think it's just this beautiful time where people just have like we're giving ourselves permission to feel joy in what we're doing.
Well,
Right?
I think that so before I retired my corporate career, right, I spent decades in luxury jewelry and bridal. And probably about 10, maybe up to 15 years ago, there was this major shift that happened where the brides would spend more on the honeymoon than they would spend on their wedding rings.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I mean,
Interesting.
right. Or whenever the person was wanting, well, there was also the change that it wasn't just the person coming in who was going to propose to buy the ring. They come together. Like that
Yeah.
was a big shift I watched happen over the decades.
Right.
You very rarely see the one person by themselves without the one who's going to be getting it.
Right.
Yeah, no, they spend more on their honeymoon because the people we are, again, I think it just goes back to being so overstimulated
Right.
that kids now in their 20s have never been without a smartphone,
Right.
which means they're always plugged in. And these environments, these experiences, the sense allow them to escape just all the overstimulation. This has been so helpful, Birdie. I know so many people are going
Oh,
to get a lot from you
thank
taking the time to
you.
share.
Thank you for
Any,
having me.
oh, my pleasure. Any last parting thoughts or something you want to kind of convey when it comes to people out there?
Well, I would say really carve out a little bit of money on your job to take the stress and responsibility off of yourself
Mhm.
to have to make decisions that you really are not the expert
Yeah.
at. And even if you're good at it, hire somebody to consult. It doesn't have to be me, but consulting fee is not a lot of it's not a lot of money in the whole scheme of things.
Right.
And it's so valuable. I could probably do a lot of documents myself using AI and ChatGPT. But there's something about making sure that I get eyes on it legally and whatever. I'm still going to hire an attorney to consult or a TC to
Right.
consult on something. It's just all of those little nuances. Don't be afraid to do that. That would be my first thing. And do your homework about where your asset is. Like, please know your market. Like, really,
Yeah.
really, really know your market. Don't ever make assumptions that you can just do XYZ. Some markets, midterm rentals are amazing. Some markets, short-term rentals are still okay.
Yeah.
In some markets, you've got workforce housing coming out of the woodwork. And in other markets, they would never do workforce housing. So just know your market if it's not in your backyard.
Yeah,
Those
that's
are
so
my
good.
two big things. So
Yeah, love it. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you soon too.
I know.
So thanks for the time, everyone who's watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.